breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by Tanner Kern, who does such great work over at DraftKings. We're going to chat it up with him about this wild American League landscape, and since he's out there in the state of Massachusetts, whether or not the Red Sox could be able to make a charge for the playoffs as they've taken the first few games of the series against the New York Yankees. We'll chat with him about what we're going to be seeing on Sunday Night Baseball and the entirety of the Sunday card. Then in the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Sunday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one or two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And while I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, we did have ourselves a fun day of baseball on Saturday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Red Sox get the job done 4-1 against the Yankees again. We'll talk more about them with our good friend Tanner Kern in segment number 2, but Jake Bennett, nice start here, allows a home run in 6 1/3 innings. It was, ironically enough, home run number 1 of the season for a guy who's been struggling a little bit for the Yankees and Max Schumann. From there, nothing else. As you had a roll to Chapman, pitch a scoreless 9th inning for the save. Justin Slayton, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Garrett Woodlock, a scoreless inning, and Garrett Cole, more like a lump of coal. 4 runs allowed over the course of 5 1/3 innings as Masataka Yoshida gets his second home run of the season. Then home run number 1 for the young infielder and Anthony Sagler. From there, you were able to get some good bullpen pitching as Paul Blackburn and Brent Hedrick both give you a scoreless inning. Camilo Duvall, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. For the Detroit Tigers, a upchuck defeat from the jaws of victory. They lose the Houston Astros this by a count of 8-6 as for the Astros entered in the 7th inning down by a pair of runs, but they were able to erase that and they were able to get a home run along the way. Cam Smith, 9th home run season off of the former Astro Framber Valdez, who gives up 4 runs over the course of 6 innings. From there, Drew Anderson gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Drew Summers in out of the bullpen squirrels. Wolves, 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in an inning. He's got an ERA above a 6 as Jacob O'Geespack was able to give you a scoreless inning, but too little too late as Kaiwei Tang, not long for this game. 5 runs, 4 of which were earned in 3 2/3 innings. Taken deep by Gary Carpenter, 12th home run season. Then A.O. Lee, his 3rd home run of the campaign off of Steven Okert, who gives up that home run in 1 1/3 innings. But A.J. Bluebot, 2 scoreless innings. And then Brian King, Josh Hader, scoreless 8th and 9th innings to be able to get that one in. The Walker Texas Rangers get a 7-4 win over the Blue Jays as Dylan Cease. He got 10 strikeouts in 4 2/3 innings, but also walked 5 and gave up 4 runs. From there, Mason Fluharty, 2 runs allowed in a 1/3 of an inning. Braden Fisher, he gives up a home run in his inning of work as Corey Seager gets the 10th home run of the season. Tommy Nance, Jeff Hoffman, Tyler Rogers all end a scoreless inning, but too little too late there as Cal Quantrill in a pseudo-open / I guess you'd call it short start, 4 shutout innings from him. Robbie Elstrom from there gives up 2 runs in a 1/3 of an inning, taken deep by one Mr. Yohendrick Pinago, 5th home run season. And don't call his name, Alejandro Kirk, 2nd home run season. That comes off of Joe Ross. Ross gives up a pair of runs in 1 1/3 innings. Peyton Gray, he was able to give you 2 1/3 innings squirrels. Tyler Alexander gets a save with a shutout 9th inning. Being able to shut things down, how about the Chicago White Sox? 2-1, they take down the Kansas City Royals. Michael Wacha, really nice start here. 1 run allowed in 7 2/3 innings. Daniel Lynch from there gives up a run in a 1/3 of an inning. John Schreiber out of the bullpen scoreless, as well as he inherited a runner from Daniel Lynch and was unable to hold it on as it was a walk-off winner from one of the young guns in Jacob Gonzalez that got the White Sox a win as Davis Martin, no decision here, but 5 1/3 innings scoreless. Sean Newcomb from there gives up a run in 1 2/3 innings, and then Grant Taylor, 2 shutout innings. So the White Sox, they continue their winning ways. They're now 28-13 at home. By the way, a team that has been doing a nice job at home as well, the Tampa Bay Rays, 30-12 at home. They take down the Arizona Diamondbacks, 42 the final. Cole Sulzer as the pseudo-opener. 2 innings, he allows 1 run. Casey Lugumina, 5 outs of the bullpen squirrels. Michael Grove, formerly of the LA Dodgers, 3 shutout innings. Kevin Kelly does give up a home run to Kidao Marte of the Marte Parte, 14th home run season. Gives up 1 run in 1 1/3 innings before Brian Baker. Scoreless 9th inning, and then Jose Cabrera. 4 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, including a pair of bombs, as Jonathan Aranda, 13th home run season. Junior Caminero, his 21st. From there, Juan Murillo, Kevin Ginkel, Taylor Clark, all in a scoreless inning, but too little, too late out there. For the Cincinnati Reds, they were on to a 9-7 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates. As for the Pirates, Jared Jones gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in 4 2/3 innings, taken deep by cousin Sal Stewart, 15th home run of the season. Evan Sisk from there, 2 runs allowed in a third of an inning. You don't mess with the Yohan Ramirez, gets messed with, 2 runs allowed. You don't mess with the Yohan Ramirez, does not get messed with, 2 shutout innings. Isaac Manson, a shutout inning, but then Gregory Soto, he gives up all 3 runs in the 9th inning. He gives up a home run to Eugenio Suarez, 8th home run of the campaign. There were 2 men on, 2 outs in the 9th inning, and he got taken deep as Chase Burns, this was his worst start of the year, 5 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. He did have 10 strikeouts, but he gave up a home run to Brandon Lau, who got loud for his 20th home run of the season. From there, Emmanuel Valdez off of Caleb Ferguson, 4th home run of the season. Ferguson gives up that 1 run in his inning of work. Sam Wool gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. TJ Antone out of the bullpen scoreless, and Chase Petty not feeling petty about the fact that he got a scoreless ninth inning to be able to get the W there. For the Philadelphia Phillies, they fall to the New York Mets this by a count of 6-2. Mets now 1-1 ever since the managerial change, as Christian Scott, great Scott, he was not long for this game. 2 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings and was taken deep by Bryce Harper, 19th home run of the season. But the bullpen does their part. Oscar Brisbane, Luke Weaver, Devin Williams all lend a scoreless inning. AJ Minter, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Tim Mesa, the opener, 1 1/3 inning scoreless. Alan Rangel from there gives up 4 runs over the course of 4 innings. Jonathan Bolin, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Kyle Bacchus, he gives up 2 runs in his inning of work, and Seth Johnson, a scoreless inning, but too little, too late out there. The Guardians get to Logan Gilbert, and they get the job done. 4-3, they take down the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners were supposed to be going with their piggyback system with Emerson Hancock to follow Logan Gilbert, but they scratch at Hancock. He'll be starting on Sunday, and for Gilbert, 4 runs allowed over the course of 7 innings. From there, Jose Ferrer, a shutout inning, and Slade Cecconi now has put together 10 straight starts with 3 earned runs or fewer. He gives up nothing in his 6 innings of work. Now, Sean Armstrong tried to make a mess out of things. He gave up 3 runs without getting a single out as Randy Arozarena takes him deep. 8th home run of the campaign, but Colin Olderman, Eric Zabrowski combined for a shutout inning, and then Hunter Gaddis, Cade Smith, they both give you a shutout inning. That gets to the window for them. The Chicago Cubs take it to the Milwaukee Brewers, 8-2 the final. Not to say that Carl Harrison was amazing, but for Harrison, 2 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings. That'll play as for Harrison, he does give up home run as Seiya Suzuki, I see you, 12th home run of the campaign, and then Michael Conforto gets his 5th home run of the season. That comes off Joel Kuhnel. Kuhnel solo home run allowed in his inning of work, but Chad Patrick, 4 runs allowed, and he only got 2 outs out of the bullpen. Ian Happ was not hapless, 17th home run of the campaign. Grant Anderson, 1 earned allowed in 1 1/3 innings. Jared Koenig, shutout inning, and David Peterson in his debut of the Chicago Cubs lives up to the Peterson name, and we like that on this podcast because my last name is Peterson. He does give up a home run to Jackson Chourio in the first inning, 11th home run of the season. That was a leadoff home run. Settles down from there. 2 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. From there, Tyler Ferguson and out of the bullpen squirrels. Jacob Webb, Tyler Thornton, and Vince Velasquez, Vinny Velo, all give you a scoreless inning. You had a nice win for the Colorado Rockies, 8-5. They take down the Minnesota Twins as the Twins bullpen continues to be awful. Mike Paredes, either here nor there with his start, 5 1/3 innings, gives up 3 runs, all of which were earned. Was taken deep twice. Hunter Goodman, he is a good man. He went deep twice off of him. 23rd and 24th home runs of the season, and then he goes deep off of Cody Funderburk. 25th home run of the season. Funderburk gives up 3 runs in an inning, including that bomb. Taylor Rogers, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and then he had 2 runs given up in 2 innings, including a home run to Kyle Karros. 5th home run of the campaign by Marco Rea in his MLB debut. Michael Lorenzen, who's been awful this season, not bad. 2 runs allowed over the course of 5 2/3 innings. From there, Victor Vodnik, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Brandon Bernardino, scoreless inning. Zach Ognos does give up 3 runs in a third of an inning. He now has a 7.71 ERA. Jimmy Erget, he needs to come on for the final 2 outs to be able to get the save, and he does so. And for the Miami Marlins, they continue to be the best team in all of baseball here in the month of June. Now 44-39. 5-1, they take down the St. Louis Cardinals. Andre 3000 Palante didn't quite give up 3,000 runs, but he was not good. 6 2/3 innings, he gives up 5 runs, all of which were earned. Matt Savanson and out of the bullpen from there, scoreless. Justin Brule, 2 scoreless innings, but too little too late. Ryan Gusto, 3 1/3 innings at a small sample size. He showed some gusto. He kept it scoreless. You had from there, Lake Bakar give up 1 run in 2 innings. John King was the king of 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Anthony Bender, 4 out scoreless, and Tyler Zuber was able to give you a scoreless inning as well. For the San Francisco Giants, they shut out the Atlanta Braves. It's by a count of 5-0. Logan Webb, well, he had the Atlanta Braves in a web. 7 shutout innings, only gives up 1 hit. Ryan Walker, Sam Entges from there, a shutout inning, and Bryce Elder, I look elderly. He gave up a pair of home runs. Rafael Devers, home runs number 13 and 14 of the season. Grant Holmes, very good in long relief, 4 shutout innings, but Too little, too late, and nothing doing for the Atlanta Braves at the plate. You know that it's a good night for the LA Dodgers when Miguel Rojas has to pitch. Either that or a very bad night. 15-3, this was a good night for the Dodgers. They take down the San Diego Padres. Randy Vasquez had an opener from Kyle Hart. Gives up 1 run over the course of 2 innings, and then Vasquez makes a mess of things. 7 runs, 5 of which were earned in 3 1/3 innings, as you had Kyle Tucker be able to go deep, 7th home run season. Dalton Rushing, he gets his 9th home run season. Then you did have Mookie Betts be able to get his 11th home run season. That comes off of Ron Marinaccio. 5 outs, 5 runs, 3 of which were earned, allowed by him, David Morgan, and the backup catcher, Rodolfo Duran. They both go for an inning. They both give up a run in Yoshinobu Yamamoto. 6 innings. He gives up 2 runs along the way. Third, Kyle Hurt. He gives up 1 run in 1/3 of an inning. Alex Vesia, a pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Jack Dreyer, Miguel Rojas, who I mentioned before. He was able to give you a shutout inning. Then to wrap up the night, the LA Angels, they are able to get the job done against the Athletics. This by a count of 5-2, as Reed Detmers continues to be very good here for the Angels. 2 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Taken deep by Jonah Heim. 7th home run of the campaign. Chase Silseth from there and out of the bullpen squirrels. Ryan Zeprion, Sam Bachman, and Kirby Yates. They all end a scoreless inning. Jack Perkins, relatively good start here. 2 runs allowed in 5 innings, and then the bullpen, well, they had a rough go of it. Matt Crook, he looked crooked. 2 runs allowed and 2 outs out of the bullpen. Jeff Hartlieb, he gives up a run, 2 outs out of the bullpen. Justin Cerner, scoreless inning. Mason Barnett, he was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. And then, if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in baseball right now, still has been an overwhelming season thus far. The over rate, 50.5%, 609 overs, 598 unders, and along the way, 31 pushes. And for the favorites, they're at 55.4%, 667 and 536 on the money line. And among those 667 favorites, now a grand total of 154 that have not been able to cover the run line over the last 7 days. Favorites on the money line, 54.3%, 50 and 42 on the money line. Meanwhile, among those 50 favorites, 14 failed to cover the run line, and the over rate just 42.1% over the last 7 days. Been very underwhelming in baseball. 55 unders, 40 overs, and a push along the way. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now. That's what we're getting trend-wise. Coming next, let's chat it up with our good friend Tanner Kern of DraftKings right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Tanner Kern aboard. He does such great work over at DraftKings, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball, but goes way beyond baseball. He does a great job with the fight game. He does a great job taking a look at football, basketball, pretty much anything that's able to be bet upon. I'm sure that'll do a great job with the hot dog eating contest in a week or so. He does a great job in terms of taking a look at it all. He also does his own podcast, the Ride the Line podcast, with our good friend Grant Mitchell. You're able to follow him on Twitter/X at his first and last name, Tanner Kern, last name spelled Kern, and then an underscore after that. And Tanner, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
Thank you for joining me, Tanner. And Tanner, we've seen the Red Sox win a few games here recently, and am I blasphemous to say that they might not be out of the wild card hunt? Because when I take a look at the American League, and we've had a few conversations about this, no team entered into Friday more than 5.5 games out of a playoff spot, and it just feels so strange that everything is so open in this league right now.
I think if you're the Boston Red Sox, or really any team for that matter, you can't even consider selling in the American League just yet. It's really going to come down closer to the trade deadline. Obviously, preliminary discussions will happen depending on how the course of your next month goes. But for the Boston Red Sox, when you're 5 games out of a wild card spot, say they do end up beating the Yankees on Sunday Night Baseball. I'm not saying they will, because I find it hard to believe they can win 4 games. They haven't done it all season. Then you get the Nationals coming to town, who obviously are a 500 team in the National League. You know, if you have a good series there, maybe, let's just hypothetically say they win on Sunday and they take 2 or 3 from Washington. Then you're in a point where you're probably 3.5 games out of that final wild card spot. Anything can happen. So, yeah, I don't think they can picture selling right now, especially when you got a guy like Craig Breslow, literally job on the line right now. They're still alive. I can't say they're not alive. And maybe the 3 wins against New York gives me false hope. But, just numbers wise, it's not about the record. They're 11 games under 500. It's about how far out of a wild card spot they are right now. And, when the Tampa Bay Rays are the only team in the American League wildcard race currently that have a legitimate record, the Cleveland Guardians are 42 and 40 in that second wildcard spot. I don't think you can say anyone's out of it.
Yep. I mean, as we're recording this right now, a few games still left to go final on Saturday, but the Kansas City Royals are dead last in the wild card hunt at 7.5 games out. So that shows you just what sort of an environment we've got right now in baseball. And for the Red Sox, they have struggled at home, but hey, they've reeled off a pair of wins. Now on Sunday Night Baseball, they've got Sonny Gray going to the mound as about a -115, -120 favorite against Carlos Rodon. Want to get your thoughts here because, I mean, the specialty for Red Sox home games this year has been the under. I'm seeing a total of 8, and personally, that's where I do lean with this one because I think that Rodon and Sonny Gray are going to be able to give you a good start. And the one thing that has been very steady and consistent for the Red Sox this season has been a good bullpen.
Well, it's almost like Caleb Durbin's home run the other night made the Yankees not able to hit the ball either, because I was watching the New York Yankees lineup on Thursday night, and every batter just felt scary. Even though there's no Judge in the lineup and Stanton, you still like Paul Goldschmidt's having a great year. Even a guy like Cody Bellinger's hit, I think 11, 12, 13 home runs in that range. That's somebody that the Red Sox would really benefit from. But the New York Yankees have not been able to hit the ball at all in Boston. Don't be fooled by the 4, 5, 6 runs that they've been able to put up in this series. I mean, for the most part, they're still manufacturing runs. You got guys who are hitting home runs that really don't hit home runs, so you can't count on that on a back-to-back night. I would say I think Sonny Gray is going to be able to be pretty good against the Yankees and Rodon. He's going against a lineup in Boston that I don't necessarily trust, even though they have ripped off 3 pretty decent offensive games. I'm always on the under when it comes to Red Sox games. If I believe the over is going to hit, I definitely would never take it.
It's going to be interesting to see what we get on Sunday Night Baseball, and certainly I do think that that's going to be another lower scoring game, as we've got our good friend Tanner Kern, who does amazing work over at DraftKings, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And then I think this one's interesting because it's not often that I find a big dog on the board where I'm like, oh, I think that there's some value here, but I know that it's been rough for Zach Littell. I know that he has been not great as a starter, but they've been throwing a lot of openers for Zach Littell, and coming out of the bullpen, he's been significantly better as a starter. That Nationals money line right now, I'm seeing it at a +165 against Kyle Bradish and the Orioles. Want to get your thoughts here because no doubt about it, I don't think that this should be a pick'em game or anything like that, but I still have my question marks with the Orioles, and in any Washington Nationals game, you have to be fearing that bullpen because, man, we saw what happened against the Philadelphia Phillies over the week. But that said, I look at this Nationals game, and I think that there might be a little bit of value here. If for nothing else, they might just be able to slug their way to victory.
In no world should a team be +160 in that range against another team that's 39 and 44, especially for the Baltimore Orioles. You look at the lineup that they have, it should be a lot scarier. Adley's on the injured list, but you still have Pete Alonso. You have Gunnar Henderson, Taylor Ward, Colton Cowser. You have a lot of guys who can actually hit the baseball. I like Bradish a lot. I think he's going to be very good in this game, but I'm in the same boat as you, Greg. I always think when you get a +160 against a team that haven't proven they could win, and a guy in Bradish who does have a 1.45 whip, he has not been statistically, from the basic stats, that much better than Zach Littell here. So yeah, for a +160 in that range, I'd be leaning towards the Washington Nationals, and probably also taking a look at the over potentially in this game with how both pitchers have been.
Yep, and with the Washington Nationals, that over is always live with regards to that bullpen. That offense just has been a perfect storm for being able to get a lot of overs there. And then when I take a look at this one, I think that we're going to have some fun here as we've got the Mariners going up against the Cleveland Guardians, another one of those teams that has a wild card spot currently in hand. But for the Guardians, as well as I do, offense has not been there for them. Gavin Williams going up against Emerson Hancock, a relative pick'em game, total of 7.5. Any sort of a lean here because Hancock was actually supposed to be piggybacking off of Logan Gilbert on Saturday. They decided to put that on hold and have him start here today.
Yeah, Mariners 20 and 22 on the road have not been great. Cleveland Guardians are 500 at home, and the Guardians in that second wild card spot. Really meaningful games for both teams right here. When you look at it, I like what Emerson Hancock's been able to do this season. 3.6 ERA, the whip right at 1. The strikeouts have been almost 1 strikeout per inning. Has not been as powerful as Gavin Williams. I mean, he's been fantastic. But the thing about Hancock is he's consistent on the road and he's consistent at home. I look at a guy like Gavin Williams with that strikeout power. It is legit. And at home, he's been really good, though. He's got the 2.64 ERA, noticeable, better split at home when it comes to all his stats. So I'd probably go with the Guardians here on the money line. I think they find a way to get it done with a good start from Williams.
Yep, and Gavin Williams, you mentioned that he's got some splits, has just been so much better at home rather than away from home. And then out there in the American League, I know I've asked you a few times if you see a team or two being able to ascend, and perhaps the answer to that question might be the Houston Astros. For the Astros, they were able to have a nice come from behind win on Saturday. They're starting to get healthy with their pitching staff, and a lot of that centers around Hunter Brown, who, in a small sample size of 4 starts, has been absolutely magnificent. Jack Flaherty goes for the Detroit Tigers, and right now the Astros minus 125 to minus 130 favorites. I want to get your thoughts here because I love what I'm seeing out of Brown, and Flaherty, especially with him coming off the injury list, is just a guy I can't trust here.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Flaherty's been so inconsistent this season when he has been on the mound. And that's what makes him so hard to bet on, and you never know what you're going to get with a guy like Jack Flaherty. So, looking at this game, I do think that we're in a spot here with Jack Flaherty where you can't really account for it. Coming in, he's going to be activated on Sunday and just coming off the injured list. You never want to get into a situation with a guy like that where you are coming off the injured list, as you were saying. I think for Detroit, they are playing better baseball, obviously. They've been up and down, too. I think there was a point where we were looking at, the Tigers being a team that could potentially climb back into the race. And I just don't know if I see that happening personally. And Hunter Brown going for Houston's just been awesome. 1-0 with the 1.4 ERA, the 1.19 whip, only giving up 12 hits in 19 innings. So limited sample size here. But, Houston's too talented to be where they've been the past couple seasons. They're a team that we've perennially seen in that American League Championship Series and just deep runs in the American League playoffs. So yeah, I'd be all over Houston here for a really good price.
Yep, I'm right there with you. It's just a bank on Hunter Brown and don't bank on our good friend Jack Flaherty, sort of an ordeal for me as Tanner Kern, who does such great work over at DraftKings. He's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And then this is a game that is presently off the board, but we might be getting Vince Velasquez on the mound for the Chicago Cubs. I had to double check to make sure that they had that right on Fangraphs because Vince Velasquez, last we saw him was like the 2023 season. Right now, this game is off the board, but I want to get your thoughts just with regards to the Cubs moving forward because they seem to be one of the most Jekyll and Hyde teams in all of baseball. And for Brandon Woodruff, he had a little bit of a velocity dip in the month of April. He went on the injury list, and he looked so good in his first start off the injury list against the Cincinnati Reds that I think that just adds another dynamic to a Brewers team that I'm already high on.
Yeah, I'm high on the Brewers. My one fear with the Brewers is when it comes down to just the ability to match big swings in the postseason, right? The power numbers haven't been there. Like say what you want about the Chicago Cubs. They've still hit 96 home runs. The Brewers have hit 72 home runs. The Brewers do a great job putting the ball in play. The OBP's high, but when you need that big power swing, who are you going to get it from on Milwaukee? Are they going to be able to manufacture runs like they're doing now? But yeah, for the pitching wise, like these smaller market teams tend to win with really good pitching and, offense that puts the ball in play, something the Boston Red Sox have tried to do and just have not been that successful. And Brandon Woodruff in the 36 innings he's been on the mound this year has been awesome. 3 ERA with a whip under 1, well under 1 too. So this is a spot where I like the Brewers in this game, but also I do like the Brewers moving forward. I like teams that can hit for power when they need to hit for power because, it's a lot harder to put 3 singles and a double together and bunt and guys over. It's easier to get that big swing. It's more inconsistent, but when you do get it, it's pretty backbreaking.
Yep, I do agree with you there. And then if you want to take a look at two teams that might have some okay pitching and they need to show me a little bit more on offense, it's the Rangers and the Blue Jays, but I actually like a sneaky over here. Kumar Rocker goes for the Rangers and Shane Bieber, great name, goes for the Toronto Blue Jays, but looked awful in his first start of the season, was not good in his minor league rehab starts. Even though you've got the name power of Shane Bieber here, I feel like this could be a game where we get some unexpected scoring, especially with Kumar Rocker throughout his career, always getting rocked when he's been away from home.
Even Shane Bieber, I know he hasn't pitched much in the big leagues this year, only 3 innings, but when he has been on the mound, those 3 innings were not very pretty. No. Kumar Rocker, 4.14 ERA, 1.38 whip. The thing about him, big walk guy, he's going to let free passes go by. He's going to make mistakes. At home, he's actually been a little better than on the road, but he's still got a 243 opponent batting average. He's going to give up home runs, going to walk guys. He's been worse when it comes to walks at home for sure as well. So I would be going with the over here. I think that's a good play on your part. And, picking a money line side's a little more difficult here. I'd probably wait to get a live bet in depending on, what team gets to the starter and then maybe taking a spread on the other side. See if you can even it out when the bullpens come in.
Yep, absolutely. And with regards to this card on Sunday, we've got all 30 teams in action. A little bit of TBD out there. There's a few unannounced starters, but anything else that you might be taking a look at for this Sunday?
Well, obviously Boston versus New York. I know we talked about that one, but the game that I'm looking forward to the most outside of that, probably the Dodgers and the Padres. I love watching the series when the Dodgers face the Padres. Not the great pitching matchup here with Sheehan going against Michael King. I think the Padres do have some value as a plus money dog here with Michael King. Sheehan's not been great, but the Dodgers offense is so tough to go against. So Michael King is going to have his hands full here as well. I think it could be a potential over spot too. I think Sheehan's going to give up runs, and I think the Dodgers are good enough to get to any pitcher in baseball. So definitely one that I'll be watching before Sunday Night Baseball happens.
Yep, and that's a game where I also do like the over as well, with the Dodgers, lead the big leagues in terms of road run creation. Now, if Michael King can be able to get through, then you might be looking at a little bit of value on the Padres, but right there with you. And I think that we've got a great slate on Sunday. And Tanner, I know that you're dialed into all of that. You're also doing a great job on the fight game. I know that you've been doing a great job taking a look at the World Cup, which is something that has just really been taking the nation by storm, and so much more. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
So you can find me at Tanner Kern pretty much across every single social media platform. And then my podcast, Ride the Line, on Tuesdays and Fridays with our friend Grant Mitchell. And then also on the DraftKings Sportsbook social pages pretty much every day.
Absolutely. Tanner doing such a great job looking at so many different things in the sports world, and every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So big thanks to Tanner for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here, lovely Las Vegas, for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Tanner Kern. He does such great work over at DraftKings, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball, and does a great job on so many different fronts, whether that be UFC, football, basketball, you name it, he does it, and every single time he joins me, he lends such great insight. So big thanks to Tanner for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81. We're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we are going to be going with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games. Any intra-league games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. How about if we get things started? This is 901, 902 on the card. It is the Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're on the road. They're facing off against the Pittsburgh Pirates as Mitch Keller is on the bump for the Buccos. Brady Singer hopes to have the Pirates singing the blues, and for the Reds, they are underdogs of plus 110 to a plus 113. Meanwhile, minus 130 to minus 135 is the number on Pittsburgh. 9 is the total. Under is minus 120, and the over is even money. And I am going to be siding with this total to the over, as I did set my total at a 9.1 for Mitch Keller. He's had a relatively rough season because his strikeout numbers are down. He's actually done a nice job in terms of being able to keep the ball in the yard, not giving up a lot of homers or anything like that, only about 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings. And throughout his career, he's always been a little bit better when he has been at home rather than away from home. This year has been a little bit of the opposite of that, but only getting those 7 strikeouts per 9 innings has been a little bit of an issue. Meanwhile, for Brady Singer, much better recently. 3 earned runs or fewer allowed in now each out of his last 5 starts, but still, he's got a fielding dependent that's much higher than his 4.81 ERA, about a 5.75 fielding dependent, 2.1 home runs, 3.1 walks per 9 innings. And for the Reds, this team is getting a little bit better with their bullpen. Caleb Ferguson has come off the injury list along TJ Antone, and these have been 2 guys that have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. You've got Brock and Roll Burke, Sam Moll. These are pretty good veteran pieces, but still a bottom 6 team in terms of bullpen ERA this season. And for the Pirates, they themselves have had some shakiness. Dennis Santana has seen his ERA go above a 4. Gregory Soto, he's had a nice start to the season, starting to regress. Isaac Madsen has had his issues, and Justin Lawrence was so bad, and they just had a DFA. For the Reds, they are starting to get more pieces with this lineup as well. Ellie De La Cruz coming back, double-figure amount of bombs, being able to give you about a 340 on base. That's big because you've got JJ Bleday, Cousin Sal Stewart, right around about a 340 to a 350 on base, and Nathaniel Lowe, 350 on base, down a little bit with power, but Bleday and Sal Stewart both have been able to give you 12-plus home runs this season. Still have a little bit of shakiness at the catcher spot, and 1 or 2 guys at the bottom of the fold, like Navali Marte, but still, it's been a solid lineup. And for the Pirates, they're averaging about 5.4 runs per game at home. Jake Magnum has been able to 300, Nick Gonzalez just below a 300, and then you've got got Brandon Lowe getting loud, 20th home run of the season yesterday. Brian Reynolds, a 400 on base. So you're going to have some of these guys like Jared Trollo, along with Henry Davis at the bottom of the fold. They're a little bit shaky, but do think they get a lot of run creation in this game, and I just still don't trust in Brady Singer, trust in Keller, and that Pirates bullpen a little bit more than the Reds. So like the over set my total 9.1, and for the Pirates, set them at a minus 162 in on their money line. 903, 904 on the card. It's the Phillies. They are going to be on the road facing off against the New York Mets. We do know that Aces Luzardo is going to be on the bump for the Phillies, and right now it's listed as to be determined for the Mets, which is why this game is off the board. Right now, Fangraphs is projecting Tobias Myers. That essentially means that this is going to be a bullpen game for the Mets, and assuming that, I set the Phillies at a minus 147, so we'll delay up to minus 146 here, plus 148 or better the Mets, and then 8 or less, I'm going to be in on the over 8.5 or higher, the under, as you just have had so much shakiness with the Mets all across the board. As for this bullpen, it's really been the lone reliable thing for the team, but you're just not going to get much out of Tobias Myers. They gave him a start a few weeks ago, and he gave up like 6+ runs, so I mean, this good bullpen with the likes of A.J. Mitchell, Brooks Raley, Austin Ward, Oscar Brisbane, Luke Weaver, all give you a sub-325 ERA. They couldn't even get to work here, and Devin Williams continues to be a little bit of a train wreck for the Mets. You've gotten great production out of Juan Soto. He continues to give you over a 380 on base. He's been able to buy 17+ home runs, but I mean, outside of that, the offense has been shaky. You're starting to get a little bit more average out of Bo Bichette, Francisco Alvarez, Carlson Benjay, all between about a 250 to 260, but really none of those guys a double-figure amount of homers. Mark Vientos at 254 on base. You're getting Francisco Lindor back, but he's been shaky all season long, and for the Phillies, not like they've been lighting the world on fire with their offense as well. If you had Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper be great. Schwarber, 29 home runs entering into yesterday. Harper, 375 on base. He's been able to give you 15+ home runs, and Brandon Marsh hitting above a 300, but the likes of Bryson Stott, Trey Turner, Alec Boehm in the infield, the entire catcher spot hitting below 240 with not a lot of power is an issue, and then Adolis Garcia has been miserable for this team. Rincones Jr., they just called up. He has been an issue, so you're not getting it done there, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, have to love what you're getting out of Yohan Duran, along with Ryan Kirkering in the bullpen. They've both been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Jonathan Boland seems to be rounding into form, and you have some of these guys like a Chase Shogurt that have been okay, but for Aces Luzardo, he has pitched much better than that 4.39 ERA would indicate. I do think that there's positivity here. Give it up fewer than 0.9 home runs per 9 innings, about 2.9 walks per 9. His strikeouts per 9 innings rate is above a 10.7, so his fielding dependent more than a full point lower than his ERA, so do think that the Phillies should be able to be a relatively sizable favorite here. We'll delay up to minus 146 on the Phils, plus 148 or better the Mets, and then 8 or less like the over 8.5 or higher the under. 905, 906 on the card. It's the Brewers. They're going to be playing us to the Chicago Cubs. Right now, we do know that Brandon Woodruff is going to be on the bump for the Brewers, and it's to be determined on the bump for the Cubs. This is a game that's off the board, and as of right now, Fangraphs is projecting Vince Velasquez getting the start for the Chicago Cubs. That is not a place where you want to be, and if you do indeed give Vince Velasquez giving you a start here for the Chicago Cubs, I would need at least a plus 225 to be able to take a shot on them. For the Brewers, I set their money line price at a minus 224, but I'd be more inclined to lay a minus 112 or better with regards to Brewers on the run line, and I set a total of an 8.6, 8.5 or less. I'm in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. Vince Velasquez, Vinny Velo, holy crud. Like, how this guy is even being considered for a start at the big league level right now, it's just absolutely insane. He actually played the outfield quite well the one time that they allowed him to when he was with the Philadelphia Phillies, and hey, he's pitched 2 1/3 innings scoreless thus far this season for the Chicago Cubs, but he was out of the big league level during both the 2024 and 25 campaign, and for AAA Iowa this season, 6.15 ERA. He was horrible in the KBO last year. Like, in the KBO last year, he was posting up an ERA above an 8. And at the minor league level, 6.7 walks per 9 innings. Last we saw him at the big league level, he was pitching for the Pirates. He actually had a relatively okay sample size, but man, there's just no trusting in Velasquez whatsoever. And Brandon Woodruff, in his first start off the Angeles, my goodness, he looked good. 10 punch-outs, 6 shutout innings, allowed 1 hit. I don't know if he's going to quite be able to maintain that. Overall for the season, 3 ERA, 327 fielding dependent. His velocity was down, now was back up in his last start, so this is Brandon Woodruff that we all know and love, and he goes up against a Chicago Cubs team that has been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of total run creation. They just have left a lot of men on base, like Ian Happ, along with Alex Bregman, are your top 2 players in terms of men left on base in all of baseball this season. Happ has been giving you only a 227 average, but closer to 340 on base, 16 home runs. Bregman just has had a really rough season. He, Nico Horner, Michael Busch, Matt Shaw, only between about a 235 to a 245. Now, the good news is pretty much everyone except for Horner has a pretty solid solid on-base percentage. Bush above a 350 on base, and Pete Armstrong has been amazing. He's been hitting over a 320 over the last 30 days. He's been able to now give you 17 home runs. And then for the Brewers, our bottom 6 team in terms of home runs out of at-bat bases, Jake Bauers leads the way with 14 bombs. He gives you a 375 on base. Bryce Terang, he gives you a double-figure amount of stolen bases. He's been able to hit for above a 360 with his on base. Jackson Chourio is hitting about a 300. Andrew Vaughn, he's above a 400 base. William Contreras, 300 plus. Now Blake Perkins has been a little bit rough along Jory Ortiz, but all these guys have been good. Cooper Pratt, he's a solid up-and-comer for the Brewers. You've had a little bit of shakiness out of Trevor McGill, Abner Uribe this season. Both of these guys are starting to round into form. McGill back below a 365 ERA. They're getting Jared Koenig off the injury list. Grant Anderson along with Aaron Ashby have been solid in this bullpen. And for the Chicago Cubs, overall for the season, the bullpen has been solid. Caleb Theobar has had his issues, but now you're just dealing with a rash of injuries with Phil Matone, Riley Martin, Hobie Milner, Daniel Palencia all on the injury list. Trent Thornton, he's been relatively solid along with Ryan Rollison, but they're really grasping at straws right now for this bullpen, and Vince Velasquez getting the start is not the answer. We'll lay up to minus 112 on that Brewers run line, plus 225 or better. Looking at the Cubs, in after less, like the over 9 or higher, the under. 9-7, 9-8 on the card. The Marlins are on the road against the Cardinals. Kyle Leahy is on the bump for the Cards, and the Marlins should be starting Tyler Phillips here, but that is still listed as TBD on the betting board, which is why this is a game that's off the board. That said, I've got my handicap. I set the Cardinals at a minus 112, so one lay up to minus 111 there, plus 130 and or better, looking at the Marlins, and then set a total of an 8.6. In after less, I like the over a 9 or higher to the under. For Kyle Leahy, he's been presentable since starting out the just 2025 season out of the bullpen. He had to make the jump to the rotation this season, and it's not great, it's not terrible. 424 ERA, 427 fielding dependent, 7.3 strikeouts, 3.3 walks per 9 innings. He's got numbers of an, and I air quotes here, average pitcher. He has given up, though, 3 earned runs or fewer, and now 7 out of his last 9 starts, so he appears to be rounding into a little bit of better form. Not necessarily backed up by the world's greatest bullpen, as you saw these guys like a Matt Savanson, along with Ryan Stanek, posting up above a 450 ERA. We've seen some shakiness of Jojo Romero, though. Corin Gaseffo, George Soriano, these guys have been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Team is in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, so a little bit of an issue there. And for Tyler Phillips, ever since getting moved to the rotation, he hasn't been as sharp. And for Phillips, he's doing for some regression. 309 ERA, a 435 fielding dependent, while getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. And what is concerning has been the command. 4.6 walks per 9 innings, and to lay it out with regards to how he's been as a starter compared to coming out of the bullpen, 182 ERA when he was coming out of the bullpen, 2 home runs allowed in 34 and 2/3 innings, 23 and 2/3 innings as a starter, 4 home runs allowed, and a 494 ERA. Now, it is a Cardinals team that's averaging over 5 runs per game when they're away from home. At home, that goes down to closer to about 4 runs per game, so some wackadoo home and road splits there, though you do have Jordan Walker, who just continues to carry the mail for the team. He's giving you 18 home runs. He's hitting about a 290, and just lots of guys are moving line, getting on base. Alec Burleson, J.J. Weatherall, both above a 345 on base, along with Lars Nootbaar, and then you've had Ivan Herrera closer to about a 400 base. Nathan Church at the bottom of the fold has cooled down with regards to homers, but hitting a 262. Blaze Jordan has been able to give you a little bit of something. Other end for the Miami Marlins, they didn't have a single guy in the starting lineup with a double-figure amount of homers. Liam Mix is right now dealing with an injury, but they're doing a great job of just mall-balling teams to death, as you've got the likes of a Javier Sanja, Joe Mack hitting about a 250, Otto Lopez is hitting well above a 325, Xavier Edwards swipes some bags, he's hitting about a 290. Now, you're going to need more on some of these guys like Kyle Stowers, Owen Casey, Griffin Conine, a lot of guys hitting between about like a 215 to a 235, and then Jacob Marcy. He steals a lot of bags, but he really doesn't hit for a lot of average, but it's a Marlins team that's been really mixed and matched with their bullpen, top 7 team in terms of bullpen area, likes of Lake Bakar, Calvin Fauché, Anthony Bender, John King. These have all been guys that have been able to give you a sub 355 ERA. So it's an interesting circumstance here. Do think that you get some run scoring here, 8.5 or less, like the over 9 or higher to the under. I like the Cardinals up to a minus 111, plus 113 or better, looking at the Marlins. 9-9, 9-10 on the card. The Braves are going to be on the road against the Giants. Robbie Ray says hip hip hooray to another start, and it is Mr. Chris Sale hoping to not sell for the Atlanta Braves. Braves are between minus 145 to minus 156 favorites. Plus 122 to a plus 132 is that number on San Francisco. 7.5 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. Set the Braves at a minus 156 if you're looking to lay a run half with them. You're getting that between about a plus 110 to a plus 115, and anything above a plus 105, I'm going to be looking at that Braves run line. For Chris Sale, he's been really the steady Eddie guy all season long for the Braves. If you look at the fielding dependent, maybe he's doing for a little bit of regression, but overall he has been very good this season. A 2.14 ERA, only giving up 0.6 home runs per 9 innings, 10.5 strikeouts, 2.3 walks per 9 innings. He really has things rocking and rolling. And for Robbie Ray, he has been much better when he has been at home rather than away from home, but he's going for a lot of regression on that 3.70 ERA. Fielding dependent more around about a 4.79 as he's given up 1.4 home runs, 4.3 walks per 9 innings, and 8.2 punch-outs per 9. That's one of the lowest numbers that he's really ever put up in a full season. I remember he had that one season where he only gave like 2 or so starts, so you throw that by the wayside, but at home for Robbie Ray, 2.93 ERA, giving up only about 1 home run per 9 innings. Away from home, he's giving up right around 1.9 to 2 home runs per 9 innings with a 4.54 ERA. And for the Atlanta Braves, they do really outgun the San Francisco Giants team in the bullpen. Caleb Killian has seen his ERA go above a 3.50 for San Francisco. You've got Keaton Wynn currently on the injury list. You've had someone like a Matt Gage see his ERA go above about a 3.50. Ryan Walker has been all sorts of shaky with over a 5 ERA. And for the San Francisco Giants, while they're averaging over 4.7 runs per game here in the month of June, a lot of that came away from home. At home, they're still averaging fewer than 4.1 runs per game. Willie Adames along with Casey Schmidt have been your main power guys, a combined 30 home runs between the two. Schmidt is hitting at 290, but Adames still just a 229 average, 275 on base. Rafael Devers is up to 12 home runs at a 297 on base, but still, they're paying for much more production than that. Jung-Ho Lee continues at above a 320 along with Luis Rise, so these guys have been solid, but still have Eloy Ramos currently dealing with a little bit of an injury. Daniel Susic has been solid at the catcher spot, and Bryce Aldridge starting to cool down a little bit, but he's been a nice spark plug for the team. And for the Atlanta Braves, entered in this series, number 2 in the big leagues in terms of road run creation. Matt Olson continues to be able to give this team 20 home runs at about a 345 on base. Mauricio Dubon is a guy that moves the line. Albies. He, Drake Baldwin, Michael Harris, all between 12 and 14 home runs, all hitting at least a 265, all between about a 332 to a 350 on base. They've been dealing with the injury to Ronald Acuna Jr., but Dom Smith, he's been able to step up. He's been able to about a 280, and I do think that for the Atlanta Braves, having just so many weapons in this bullpen, you've got Tyler Kinley, who's coming off the injury list, Dylan Lee, Dylan Dodd, Racio Iglesias, Robert Suarez, that they should be able to get the job done here. So I told 7.7, so I like the 7 after the over. And for the Braves, plus 1.5 or better, looking at that run line, 9-11, 9-12 on the card. The Dodgers are going to be on the road against the Slam Diego Padres, as Emmett Sheehan is on the bump for the Dodgers, and it is Michael King open to be the king for San Diego. San Diego's an underdog of between plus 120 to a plus 125, minus 142 to a minus 149. That number on Los Angeles, it is the total. Over is minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is minus 105 to a minus 110. Plus 125 or better does put me in on the Padres. I set them at a plus 124. For Michael King, probably doing for a little bit of regression here, but he's been able to do a good job in terms of keeping things out in front of him. 333 or 8 does have that 416 fielding dependent. Strikeout numbers are down to about 7.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has been giving up about 3.4 walks per 9 innings, but still, he is in a very pitcher-friendly environment, so even though he's pitching to a little bit more contact, Petco should be his friend as his ERA goes down to 287 at home, 396 when he is away from him. And for Emmett Sheehan, you want to talk about guys that have very demonstrative home and road splits. Here you go. Now, he's pitched better than the 5.32 ERA would indicate this year, about a 4.61 fielding dependent, but still giving up the 1.9 home runs per 9 innings, even though he gets 10.1 strikeouts per 9. When you're giving up that many rockets, that's a little bit of an issue, and this is not just a one-season split, but this is a career split for Emmett Sheehan. Career 3.24 ERA at home. At home, he's given up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. Away from home, over 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, 5.67 ERA. Now, the good news is he's backed up by an LA Dodgers lineup that is number 1 in the big leagues in terms of road run creation. Recognize that it's been a shaky season here for Kyle Tucker, but you've got the likes of Max Muncy, Andy Paz hitting in the neighborhood about a 260 to a 270. They've both been able to give you 15 plus home runs. Freddie Freeman is out to 13 bombs. He's above a 340 on base. Shohei Ohtani, 4 plus on base. He's back to the Shohei Ohtani that we all know and love. Throwing rushing has went down the toilet bowl, and someone like an Alec Freeland, you could use a little bit more there, but all in all, great lineup. And for the San Diego Padres, they have been dead last in terms of run creation this year. Only 2 guys in the starting lineup yesterday with over 8 home runs. Manny Machado with 14 bombs, and hitting a 186, that's just not going to cut it. And then Gavin Sheets, holy Sheets, he's only hitting a 225. And then Sabath Taylor has actually been really good in terms of moving the line. Small sample size, less than 75 at bats, but he's hitting above a 340. And Fernando Tatis Jr., while he's only got 3 home runs, about a 350 on base. Need more out of Xander Bogaerts. He has been miserable this season, but they're getting back Miguel Andujar. And for the Padres, this has been a top 4 team in terms of bullpen ERA. The likes of Wandy Peralta, Yuki Matsui, Jason Adam, everybody will give you a sub-3 ERA. Mason Miller continues to close things out. Adrian Morejon has been improving as the season goes along. And on the flip side for the Dodgers, Edgar Enriquez has actually been quite good in this bullpen. He's been able to give you a sub-350 ERA. Alex Vesia, Will Klein have been pretty reliable. Kyle Hurd has seen his ERA go up a little bit to a 342, but I do think that for these starters, you're going to have a little bit of of difficulty, and I think that Sheehan has a bit more of that than King. So, like the over, so I tell it at 8.3, and for the Padres, plus 125 or better. Looking at that money line, 913, 914 on the card. The Walker Texas Rangers are on the road against the Blue Jays, as you've got Shane Bieber, who has a fever for getting outs for Toronto, and Kumar Rocker for the Texas Rangers. 8.5 is the total. Unders minus 115 to minus 120. The overs between even minus 105. Blue Jays are between minus 130 to minus 132 favorites. Plus 110 to a plus 112 is that number on the Rangers, and I'm actually going to side with the Blue Jays on the money line. Now, for Shane Bieber, he was absolutely dreadful in his minor league rehab appearances. He was posting up about a 688 there, and then in his first start against the Houston Astros, gives up 4 runs, doesn't even make it out of the 4th inning, as he gave up 3 home runs with those 4 total runs. So I knew he was actually lucky that he wasn't giving up more than he actually was. That said, I do think that Kumar Rocker is going to get rockered in this game, as well as for Kumar Rocker, he has always been much worse when he has been away from home rather than at home. Kumar Rocker, for his career, gives up in that neighborhood about like 0.7 home runs per 9 innings when he's at home, but away from home, that goes up to about 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, and that ERA 6.55 on the road compared to 3.32 at home. Now, the good news is he's backed up by a bullpen that's been absolutely magnificent. You've got the Jacobs, Jacob Junis, Jacob Latz, along with Tyler Alexander, that have all been able to give you a sub-3 ERA this season. Hey, Peyton Gray, he was used as a long guy yesterday, so not going to be able to come back here, but he's been able to give you some good length. Robbie Alstrom, he got lit up a little bit yesterday, but all in all, it's a Rangers team that is in the top 10 in terms of bullpen ERA, and we've seen some regression with this Blue Jays bullpen. You've got the likes of a Braden Fisher, Tommy Nance, between about a 3.45 to a 3.70 ERA. They had to really dive into the bullpen yesterday. Dylan Cease did not give them a great start, but have Tyler Rogers, who was used for over 20 pitches yesterday, along with Louis Varland, who have both been able to give you a sub-2 ERA this season. And for the Blue Jays, to their credit, this team is a top 3 team in terms of fewest strikeouts on a per-at-bat basis. Have a lot of guys that move the line. Jesus Sanchez, Liger Jr., Nathan Lukes, Ernie Clement. All these guys have been able to hit at least a 270 for the team. Yohendrick Pinago as well. Just not a lot of power here. Like for Liger Jr., he's stuck on 4 home runs right now. You just need a little bit more there. Dalton Varsho, he's giving you about a 330 on base, but again, not a lot of power. Kazuma Okamoto, 18 plus home runs. He's really been the main guy to be able to give you some boom, and with the Rangers, they do average closer to 4.3 runs per game away from them compared to fewer than 4 at home, but it's been a little bit of struggling offense. Wyatt Langford, since coming off the injury list, has been great, and Corey Seager, he's out with injury all season long. He did get a home run yesterday, so that should help out the team. Jake Berger has been your main boom guy with over 13 home runs. He's hitting about a 260. Don't call his name. Alejandro Ozuna hitting at 260. Ezekiel Duran more around about a 270. So starting to find guys that move the line, and then Josh Young along with Nicky Lopez both hit above a 290. So it is a very interesting circumstance. You've got 2 starting pitchers that are shaky, and I do think that both of these offenses are going to be able to show a little bit of positivity here. So I like the over, so I total 9.1, and I'm in on the Blue Jays. I set them at a minus 148. 9.15, 9.16 on the card. The Guardians are on the road against the Seattle Mariners, as Emerson Hancock is on the bump for the M's, and Gavin Williams goes for the Guardians. Guardians who find themselves as a bit of a favorite here. Minus 108 to minus 115. Minus 105 to a minus 108 is that number on Seattle. 7.5 is the total. The over and the under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and I'm going to be in on the Guardians. I did set them at a minus 127. Emerson Hancock has been a solid pitcher this year. 3.60 ERA, about 8.5 strikeouts, 2 walks allowed per 9 innings. It does feel like he's been hitting a little bit more of a wall recently, because he was a guy that prior to this year, he had been absolutely awful in the tours of duty that he got at the big league level, wasn't giving you a whole heck of a lot of swing and miss, and really came out and dazzled people in his first few starts. Has now given up 11 runs across his last 2 starts. Now, I still do like the under here, because for the Cleveland Guardians, they entered into the day on Saturday having scored 58 total runs in their last 20 games. They're dealing with the injuries to Chase Lauder, Jose Ramirez, Anel Martinez. These guys just have not been great, but you still do have Travis Bazzana, who's been able to give you about a 342, a 350 on base. Same goes for Brian Rocchio. Kyle Manzardo has been rounding into form a little bit more. You still need more of the likes of Patrick Bailey, Gabriel Urinas. They've got Petty Halpin in the outfield. They're all hitting below the Beddoes line of 200. I like Seattle's been amazing with their offense, bottom half of the big leagues. In terms of run creation, Cal Raleigh just has stopping himself, hitting for less than a 275 on base, 8 home runs. I know that he was injured, but you expect more there. JP Crawford only hits a 225 on base percentile above a 340. 10 home runs out of him. Julio Rodriguez, Tom Canzone, Luke Raley, all between 12 and 14 home runs. And to the credit of Canzone, about a 350 on base, more of a 240 to 250 average out of Rodriguez, along with Luke Raley. And for the Mariners, they were originally going to have Emerson Hancock piggyback off of Logan Gilbert yesterday. They decided to scrap that. Still have a solid bullpen for the Mariners. Top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Gabe Spire, Jose Ferrer, Edward Bizardo have all been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Andres Munoz has been a little bit of a roll of the dice, but all in all, these guys have been solid. And then for the Cleveland Guardians, it was a shaky start to the season for their bullpen. They've been in the top 8 in terms of ERA since May 1st. So Sean Armstrong, Eric Sobrowski, Kate Smith, all give you a sub-350 ERA. Tim Aaron has been pretty solid. And Hunter Gaddis, after a rough start to the season, he's been around in a form. And Gavin Williams has just been so much better at home rather than away from home. Overall for the season, with Gavin Williams, he's supplying an ERA that is more in that neighborhood, about a 382 with a fielding dependent, very similar because he's been giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, but he is getting about 10.3 strikeouts per 9 innings overall and at home. That goes down to a 264 ERA. He's only giving up 1 home run per 9 innings, so do think that the Guardians find a way to be able to get the job done in a low-scoring game like the under. Semi total 7.2 for the Guardians. We'll lay up to a minus 126 on the money line. 917, 918 on the card. The Astros are going to be on the road against the Tigers as Captain Jack Flaherty is on the bump for the Tigers and Hunter Brown goes for the Astros. Astros are a road favorite between minus 124 to a minus 131. Plus 106 to a plus 110 is that number on Detroit. 8 is the total. Over is minus 115 to a minus 120. The under is between even a minus 105. For the Astros, set them at a minus 144. I like their money line. I know that it's been a very small sample size this year for Hunter Brown, but man, this guy's been good. 140 ERA, 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's given up just 1 home run in his 4 starts this far this season, and you got a Tigers team that's averaging about 4.1 runs per game. They have been a bottom 7 team in terms of total run creation, so lots of question mark and concern there for the Detroit Tigers. They have been able to have Riley Green along Kevin McGonigal give you over 375 on base, and they've been looking a little bit better recently, even with Gleyber Torres, Javi Baez being on the injury list, but you saw these guys like Matt Vierling, Jahmai Jones, James Outman, Jake Rogers, so many guys. They're at 225 or lower towards the bottom of the fold, and Dylan Dingler, he's been great. He's been able to give you 18 home runs, hitting about a 265. Spencer Torkelson, even though he's got a double-figure amount of homers, and the same goes for Kerry Carpenter. Both of these guys are hitting below a 230, both of these guys below a 310 on base, so need a bit more there. And for the Astros, a little bit of a top-heavy lineup right now with Yordan Alvarez. He's been able to give you a 425 plus on base, and he's been able to supply 25 plus home runs. Did miss yesterday, so something to be mindful of. Christian Walker, he's been able to continue his fly power, 18 home runs. He's been hitting about a 240 overall for the season, and Jeremy Pena at the top, not necessarily a ton of power, but 360 on base. He's Sock Paredes, more like a 350 on base, but you do have these guys at the bottom of the full: Bryce Matthews, Jake Myers, Zach Cole, Zach DeZenzo, Christian Vasquez, pretty much everyone except for Vasquez. Outfielders, Cam Smith, who have all been hitting at 225 or lower. And for the Astros, it has been a team that's been shaky with their bullpen, to say the least. Bottom 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Brian Abreu, well above a 5 ERA. Aniel De Los Santos, above a 4 ERA. AJ Blubaugh's been better. Stephen Oker, Josh Hader, these guys have been very locked down. And for the Detroit Tigers, they're improving with the bullpen, as now Will Vest well below a 375 ERA. Kyle Finnegan has been very reliable for the team, but there's no trusting in Kenley Jansen. Emmanuel De Jesus is actually rounded in a good form as well, but do you think that with having Jack Flaherty out there, that's just a big liability. 535 ERA, and he is still getting the 10 plus strikeouts per 9 innings, but the walks have been an issue, and he takes himself out of starts early with about 4.7 walks per 9 innings, and is also making his first start since June 12th coming out the injury list, so length is a concern here. I'm going to be willing to lay the Astros on the money line, set this at a minus 144. I'm like the 8 over, so I total it at 8.1. 919, 920 on the card. The Royals are going to be on the road against the White Sox, as Anthony Kay says okay to another start, and Luinder Avila, he goes for the Royals. The Royals are an underdog of between plus 113 to a plus 118, minus 135 to a minus 140. That number on the White Sox, 8.5 to 9 is the total. On the 8.5, over is minus 120. The under is even. On the 9, under is minus 120. Over is even money. And for the White Sox, I'm willing to lay it. I set them at a minus 149. Luinder Avila just one terrible start against the Astros. He gives up 8 runs in less than 1 inning. Aside from that, he's been relatively okay. In his actual starts, he has given up 1 run in 3 out of the last 4. So that's actually some positivity for him, and he's been much better when he's been away from home rather than at home. But still, a 5.7 walks per 9 innings, 5.06 ERA, 4.46 fielding dependent. You do have to have some concerns there, and it's not like Anthony Kay has been any sort of world beater, not a guy that is going to give you a whole bunch of swing and miss or anything like that. For Mr. K, right now, 4.24 ERA, fielding dependent is more in that neighborhood, about a 5.05, 1.3 home runs, 3.5 walks per 9 innings, while only getting about 7.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. And both of these bullpens very much are a roll of the dice, more so with the Kansas City Royals rather than the Chicago White Sox. As for the White Sox, they still have Seranthony Dominguez as their closer. I just really can't get behind that, but That's it. At the very least, someone like your Grant Taylor, Sean Newcomb, these have been guys who have been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA. Brian Hudson has been solid. So, that cancels out the fact that Jordan Hicks is awful. And for the Kansas City Royals, good news is they didn't use much of the bullpen yesterday, thanks to a good start from Michael Wacha. Daniel Lynch has been able to give you a sub 3 ERA, but Matt Strahm has been miserable this year. He and Lucas Hurst well above a 4.50 ERA. Alex Lang has seen his ERA go above a 5. John Schreiber, he's been steady for the team with about a 3.35 ERA, but past that, not a ton there. And for the Royals, they continue to be right at the bottom of the big leagues with about 3.6 to 3.7 runs per game away from home. Carter Jensen is starting to give you a little bit more, hitting about a 245, and then Jack Caglione, he's up to 13 plus home runs. He's been able to supply this team with about a 340 on base. Obviously, Bobby Witt Jr. with his 10 home runs, 365 on base is solid. And while you do have Salvador Perez give you 10 home runs, 242 on base, you need a little bit more. Some of these young guys like a John Rave, Nick Lofton, they've been able to find a way on base, both give you above a 330 on base, but there's not a lot of average, there's not a lot of power here. And for the White Sox, you do have Miguel Vargas with 17 home runs, about a 360 on base. Colson Montgomery only hits a 225, but 20 home runs out of him. And then you do have these guys like Tristan Peters, Chase Meadroff, give you between about a 342 to 350 on base. They're getting Kyle Teal off the injured list, and Sam Antonassi about a 385 on base. So do like the White Sox to be able to get the job done, set them at a minus 149, and I did make this total in 8.8. Right now we're seeing a lot of 8.5 to a 9. Personally, would rather have an 8.5 to the over rather than the 9 to the under. 921, 922 on the card. The Athletics are going to be on the road against the Angels. It is going to be Aaron Savali on the bump for the Athletics, to be determined for the Angels. That's why this game is off the board. But Sam Ejiri should be the starter here for the Angels. And assuming this, I have set the Angels at a minus 107. We'll delay to minus 106 there, plus 108 or better, the Athletics, and then a total of a 8.6. So 8.5 or less, I'm going to be in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. For Aaron Savali, he has just really regressed. He got off to a really nice start to the season. I sort of thought that it was built on sand because Aaron Savali has never really been the Mona Lisa Vito of being able to get swings and misses and strikeouts. And right now for the season, 1.9 home runs, 2.7 walks per 9 innings with only 6.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. So 488 ERA, 534 fielding dependent with at least 5 runs allowed in 3 out of his last 4 starts. Just absolutely miserable there. Now he, much like many of these athletic stars, have typically been better away from home rather than at home, but still really hard to be able to just get behind that. And then for Ejiri, in its small sample size, a 5.47 ERA, as he's only pitched 24 2/3 innings at the big league level, 1.5 home runs, 4.4 walks per 9 innings. So the fielding independent is right on par with that ERA, and he's only getting about 5.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. When he was at AAA Salt Lake, he was posting up an ERA well above a 7. So both of these starters have been rough. And for the Athletics, to their credit, this has been a really good offense as far this season, as you've got Nick Kurtz along Shea Langelaires, who have both been able to give you 19 home runs. And for Kurtz, above a 420 on base, he's one of the best at being able to draw walks in all baseball. You've had a few ailments for the team. Jacob Wilson is dealing with a little bit of injury, and Zach Aloff hit the injury list once again. That's a little bit of an issue for the Athletics, but still, you've been able to get some relatively good production as well out of Carlos Cortez, who's been able to give you about a 350 on base. Henry Bolte doesn't give you power, but he's hitting above 300. And Tyler Soderstrom, he has really been good here in the month of June. Overall for the season, he's sitting in that neighborhood about like a 250 or so, and he's been able to supply 13 home runs, but for Soderstrom, here in the month of June, he has been arguably their best hitter, as he's been able to give you a 412 on base, 6 home runs in this month, so you absolutely love what you're seeing there. Meanwhile, for the LA Angels, this is a team that averages just under 5 runs per game away from home. That goes down to more like 4 runs per game at home, and right now you're dealing with Mike Trout being out due to an injury. Now, Joe Adell, double-figure amount of homers, only about a 290 on base, so Zach Neto, 17 home runs, only hits a 228 with the average, 325 on base, a little bit more respectable, and you've seen some of these guys come from out of nowhere, like Wade Meckler, Donovan Walton, who have been able to hit above a 285. Jose Siri's been solid. I do think that you're going to see some regression there, and obviously this is an Angels bullpen that, man, it's just not good to say the least, as right now you've got a lot of guys that are just posting up an ERA above a 5. I think that they just got rid of Drew Pomeranz altogether. That's not great. Now, you've been able to get Jay Silseth, Sammy Natera to be able to give you a sub-3 ERA, so these guys have been relatively solid, but now you're looking at someone like a Brett Carey to try to be able to carry you for some long innings. Sean Anderson, when they've tried him out, he's been giving you over a 6 ERA. The Ryan Johnson starter experiment is not going well, and they were throwing Alek Manoah and Jordan Romano out of this bullpen. You just have nothing whatsoever for these guys, and it's not like the Athletics have been the Mona Lisa Vitos of bullpen pitching as well, as right now you've got Luis Medina, who's been posting up an ERA well above a 4, along with the former Angel and Jose Suarez. You've had Hogan Harris start to regress over a 350 with his ERA, as well as Scott Barlow, Mark Leiter Jr., they're long in the tooth. They're not giving you too much along to Elvis Alvarado, so interesting circumstance here. 8.5 or less, like the over 9 or higher to to the under, with the Angels willing to lay up to -106 with them, plus 108 or better. The Athletics, 923, 924. The Yankees are going to be on the road against the Red Sox, as Sonny Gray hopes for a sunny day for Boston, and Carlos Rodon is on the bump for the Yankees. The Yankees do find themselves as a underdog here of even money to plus 102, -118 to -122. That number on Boston, 827.5 is the total. 7.5 has the overjuice of -130, the under at a plus 110, and on the 8. Over is -110 to a -120. Under is between even a -110. I do like the under. I did set my total at 7.8. Sonny Gray is way down with his swing and miss stuff. As a matter of fact, it's as low as it has been since 2016 with about 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's done a rock-solid job, giving up only about 0.7 to 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, 2.4 walks per 9, so he's doing a great job keeping things out in front of him there. And for Carlos Rodon, the walks have been an issue, over 4.5 walks per 9 innings, but 3.70 ERA with a lower 3.49 fielding dependent, 0.7 home runs per 9 innings allowed with 10 punch-outs per 9. So these guys have been able to do a nice job on that front. And you've got a Boston Red Sox bullpen that has been spectacular. They've been a top 4 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Garrett Woodlock is giving you a sub-3 ERA. I know that Orioles haven't had that shaky series against the Rockies, but overall, he's been able to give you a nice season. Justin Slayton has come off the injury list, and he's been shaky thus far this season, but he and Danny Kaboom look to be rounding into form as well. Even someone like a Taylor Guerrero has been solid, but for the Red Sox right now, they're averaging about 3.6 runs per game at home. That's dead sinking last in all baseball. Wilson Contreras has just had to carry the mail for the team. 15 plus home runs, over 375 on base, and we do have a few other guys that they just move the line to get on base. Guys like Weiler Abreu, Masataka Yoshida, Ceddanne Rafael, they're all between about a 330 to a 335 on base. When they've given Mickey Gasper some opportunities along with Nick Eaton, they've been able to give you a bit of something, but Caleb Durbin still hitting below a 290 with regards to the on base now. You've been able to get a bit more production in terms of home run power, Jarren Duran, but 255 on base as well. And for the New York Yankees, they're really starting to struggle without Aaron Judge. Ben Rice still give you about a 367 on base and 20 plus home runs. Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt, along with even Anthony Volpe, they move the line. They've all been able to give you at least a 350 on base, but when you've got Austin Wells at the catcher spot, that's a little bit of an issue. You've got guys like Schumann and company in the outfield, and Usan Dominguez just hasn't necessarily developed the way that a lot of people, including myself, were anticipating. For the Yankees, they've been a whole-hum bullpen because you've had David Benner along with Camilo Doval, both posting up an ERA above a 325. Brent Hedrick, Fernando Cruz, these guys have been superb. They've been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, but Tim Mills really regressed. Ryan Yarbrough up to about a 4 ERA, so it's an interesting circumstance. I do think that the Yankees get to Sonny Gray, and I just don't think that the Red Sox do their part with regards to the offense. So set the Yankees at a -114. I like their money line. I like the under. Set my total 7.8. 925, 926 on the card. It's the Nationals on the road against the Baltimore Orioles. Kyle Bradish is on the bump for the Orioles. We know that Zach Littell is going to be the bulk guy, most likely going to have an opener throw from, and right now with the Nationals, they're anywhere between plus 158 to plus 166 on the money line. -190 and -$2 is that number on Baltimore. 9 is the total. Under is -110 to a -115. Over is -105 to a -110, and I like the Nationals here. Set them at a plus 149 now. I recognize that this is a Nationals bullpen that has been no good, very bad, and absolutely terrible. As for the Nationals, they are right now the worst team in terms of bullpen ERA in the National League, but you look at what Zach Littell has done behind an opener. He's actually been much better behind an opener. There are few guys in which this actually works for. It seems to be working for Littell. Overall for the season, 540 ERA, 652 fielding dependent, allowing 2.5 home runs per 9 innings. But as a starter, 631 ERA, 3 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Coming out of the bullpen as a bulk guy, 342 ERA, 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Now, he does have to go up against a Baltimore Orioles team that has been absolutely superb with their offense at home. At home, the Baltimore Orioles are averaging about 4.95 runs per game. That is a top 6 mark in all baseball. Gunnar Henderson has been able to give you 14 plus home runs. Not a guy that is really going to give you a lot of on base, a sub 300 on base, but he's been able to do a nice job supplying the boom. And then you've had Pete Alonso do a nice job rounding into form. He's back up to over a 340 on base. He's been able to give you 18 home runs. Taylor Ward, really no power whatsoever, but 392 on base with his 5 home runs. You're going to need a little bit more on some of these guys like Tyler O'Neill, Kobe Mayo, Jackson Holiday. They've been hitting below a 225, but overall the lineup is rounding into form. And for the Nationals, they entered in the series number 1 in the big leagues in terms of run creation. CJ Abrams over a 360 on base with 17 home runs. James Wood giving you good wood, 20 home runs, over a 360 on base out of him as well. And then silently, Luis Garcia, 13 home runs. He's hitting about a 260. Jober Vivas, Alontel Lyle. These are guys move line hitting about a 250. Even someone like Curtis Mead has been able to give you some power as well. And for the Orioles, while they've got a better bullpen than the Washington Nationals, it's not a whole heck of a lot better, as you've had a lot of issues with Andrew Kittredge, Keegan Aiken, both supplying over a 5 ERA. Ynier Cano, Uncle Rico Garcia have been able to give you a sub 3 ERA, but that said, you've had a lot of shakiness out of Ryan Helsley ever since he's come off the injury list. And for the Washington Nationals, PJ Poulin along with Richard Richard Dickey, Lovelady have been relatively okay, but we're seeing regression pretty much out of all these guys across the boulevard. Brad Lord, oh Lord, he's been a relatively solid long guy, but he's a guy that's starting to really struggle right now. You've just not gotten a ton of Orlando Rebalta over the last few weeks after he was very solid to begin the season as well. And these guys like Mitchell Parker's long guys, not great. But that said, I did semi-total at 8.7 for Kyle Bradish. He's been having some issues with regards to his command, as he is giving up over 4 walks per 9 innings, and I think that's a byproduct of spending so much time on the injury list over the last 2 seasons, as right now 364 ERA, closer to about a 405 fielding dependent, giving up 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. Strikeout stuff is still good, but it's not necessarily amazing, and I do think that the Nationals can get to him, and I like the improvement of Littell, so I like the under of 9, and I do like the Nationals at a plus 150 or better on the money line. 927, 928 on the card. The Diamondbacks are on the road against the Rays, as Drew Rasmussen should be going here for the Rays against Merrill Kelly. In some places this is off the board, but with the openers I'm seeing, you've got the Rays anywhere between minus 190 to minus 195, plus 160 to a plus 165. That number on Arizona, 7.5 is the total. Overs minus 115 to a minus 120. Unders between even to minus 105. At a plus 165 or better, I'm in on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, I really like what I've been seeing out of Drew Rasmussen this season. He has cranked up the swing and miss stuff right now for the season. He's been getting right in that neighborhood of about 9.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, while when giving up 0.9 bombs, 1.6 walks per 9 innings. Do you think that there might be a little bit of regression that he's doing here? But overall, he's been a guy that's really done his job. You do have to have a little bit of trepidation, though, with this Tampa Bay Rays bullpen, though, as right now you've got Craig Kimbrell coming out of the bullpen. That's not necessarily a place where you want to be. They had to throw Cole Sulzer, who's got over a 5 ERA, as like a starter for a little bit of just a piecemeal game for this team. You've got Casey Lugumina, Cam Boozer, who have been pickups that have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA thus far, and I like what Brian Baker brings to the table, but Garrett Clevenger has been all sorts of a roll of the dice, and for the Tampa Bay Rays, when it comes to lineup, you've really got a big 3 for the team. Junior Caminero, Yandy Diaz, along Jonathan Aranda, all give you at least 12 home runs, all with at least a 375 on base, and Caminero up to 21 home runs, but it's even at someone like Chandler Simpson, who's sitting about at 265. You've had Ryan Velde be able to hit above a 280. You've got Richie Palacios giving you a 330 on base, so up and down the boulevard, Hunter Fiducia, Nick Fortes at the catcher spot. This has been solid for the Diamondbacks. They have fallen to the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of run creation, but you do have Gabriel Moreno, now give you about a 360 on base, and then Corbin Carroll has been one of your 2 main power guys. He and Ketel Marte, the lone 2 guys on the roster with a double-figure amount of homers. Marte hitting about a 260, Carroll about a 370 on base, Geraldo Perdomo up to about a 353 on base, and for Merrill Kelly, it certainly has been all sorts of shaky for him this season. Started out the season really, really bad. You then rounded into form, and now we're starting to see a little bit more regression once again. 5.71 ERA, fielding independent, relatively on par with that, as he's been giving up about 3.5 walks per 9 innings. The strikeouts per 9 rate is hovering around 6 as well, so that's been a little bit of an issue. 3+ runs allowed in 3 out of his last 4 starts, but I do think that he's going to be able to do an okay job here, and I do think that for the Tampa Bay Rays, they do just enough to be able to help you out with regards to this total to the over, so I set my total at 7.6. I do like the over with the Diamondbacks. I trust in this bullpen to be able to stabilize things a little bit more. You've got the likes of Jonathan Loaiza, even someone like a Kevin Ginkel has been shaky in the past. Taylor Clark, these have been guys that will be able to give you a sub 325 ERA. I really don't trust in Paul Sewald at the closer's role, but plus 165 or better, and on the Diamondbacks, and I do like the over, so my total 7.6. Wrap things up with 929, 930 on the card. It is the Rockies on the road against the Minnesota Twins. Connor Prelip is on the bump for the Twins, and Ryan Feltner goes for the Rockies. Rockies do find themselves as a underdog here, as you're going to be getting them between plus 130 to a plus 135, minus 150 to minus 155 is that number on the Twins, and total on this game, it is 9.5, over and under both at minus 110, and when it comes to the Rockies, I did set them at a plus 169, so I'm going to be one thing the Twins on the money line. Don't want the run line, because both of these bullpens, my gosh, they have been absolutely terrible. The Rockies are 27th in terms of bullpen ERA, the Minnesota Twins are 29th, so there's really no trusting in either of these bullpens. I will say Antonio Senzatella has actually been really good for this Rockies bullpen, being able to give you a sub 350 ERA along Seth Halverson, but I mean, we've seen Jaden Hill see his ERA go above a 4, Juan Bahia puts up well above a 5 ERA, Victor Vodnik has been a mess as far this season, up and down. You just don't have a lot of reliability there, and for the Rockies, they've been averaging over 4.5 runs per game away from home this season. Big byproduct of the fact that they had that 23 spot in lovely Las Vegas, so I do think that that's going to be regressing a bit. TJ Bromfield, Mickey Moniak have been able to give you 12 home runs apiece, and both are hitting above a 275. Hunter Goodman is a good man. He's been able to give you 22 home runs this season, but some of these guys like Starlin Thompson at the bottom of the fold, Ezekiel Tovar, they're just still not giving you a lot, and you still do have some pretty demonstrative home and road splits in terms of some of these guys that just have not been able to move the line and get on base, like Tyler Freeman away from home. He's only giving you about a 267 on base as far this season. Eduardo Julian is sitting at 225 away from home. Willie Castro's batting average goes down to about a 227. And then on the flip side, for the Minnesota Twins, Byron Buxton is just hitting everything in his path right now. 25 home runs and hitting at 275. And then you've got Brooks Lee, Cody Clemens, a combined 26 home runs between the two of them, both hitting about a 240, so not lighting the world on fire. And Josh Bell, closer to a 350 on base here in the month of June after he was so miserable to begin the season. Austin Martin Still's giving you about a 350 on base. Royce Lewis, since getting recalled from the minor leagues, has been a little bit better. And whenever you've had Ryan Jeffers out there, he, along with Trevor Larnach, have been very good in terms of being a move line. Both give you about a 375 on base. Again, with the Twins, I just don't know who's trustworthy in this bullpen right now. Yandres Gomez in a Twins uniform and a Twins uniform only has actually been able to give you a nice solid sub-2 ERA, but pretty much everyone else in this bullpen is posting up an ERA above a 350. Travis Adams, Cody Lawyerson, Anthony Banda, Taylor Rogers. You just go down the list of guys that are giving you nothing whatsoever. It's been all sorts of brutal there, but I do think that Connor Prelipping and Brian Feldner are going to be able to give you presentable starts. For Feldner, his ERA is relatively on par with his fielding dependent, as he has been giving up in that neighborhood about 1.3 to 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, 3.8 walks per 9 with about 6.7 strikeouts per 9, but hasn't been awful for this team. And then you've got a guy in Connor Prelip that does have a 5.17 ERA, but a lower 3.93 fielding dependent. He's getting about 8.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. The walks per 9 rate is above 3.5, but only 1 home run allowed per 9 innings. So I do think that things stabilize here. Do like the Minnesota Twins on the money line, set them more around a minus 169, and do like the under. Semi-total at 8.79. That'll wrap things up for the Sunday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Tanner Kern of DraftKings for joining me in the last segment. If you did like hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like here on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm with you guys every single day. Give you a picks and analysis on every game every day, so I'll be back with you once you get them out. Thank you.